Conservatives unveiled their maternity benefits plan today. It would protect a parent's job for up to 18 months by adding on 6 months of unpaid leave if they desire to take it. New parents could also stretch out their benefits for up to 61 weeks. To discuss this plan and a similar Liberal plan, we're joined by Paul Kershaw. He's founder of Generation Squeeze, which aims to help young people cope in that awful world of politics, and he joins me from Vancouver. Paul, give me your take on today's Conservative plan. Reading through the details, what strikes you? Is it good, bad, or not much change?
Well, the University of BC research that guides Generation Squeeze does call on all parties to commit to extending leave to 18 months and then improving the benefit level and incentivizing dads to share the leave. So I think we have to applaud Mr. Harper and his party for focusing on the issue and doing one part of what we recommend. But there are some serious problems with the recommendation because the Conservative Party doesn't add any new money to make the extension of leave to 18 months a meaningful option for most families. Because here's the reality. A typical young couple today is much more likely to be a dual earner now than a generation ago. But that household will be not bringing really any more money home, despite giving so much more time to the labor market. And then they face housing prices that are up hundreds of thousands of dollars. We need family policy to grapple with that new reality. And simply extending a legislative right to take leave, but not actually make it meaningful by making it affordable, doesn't do a lot.
Well, help an old guy like me who had kids, and I think my spouse stayed home for about 3 months max. Why is 18 months so critical? That parents need to go that 6 months without pay. What's the difference? Is that a daycare gap, or what is it?
Yeah, I don't think that Gen Squeeze would recommend the going without pay side of the equation. We're saying if you're going to lengthen the leave, you have to make it more affordable. Because right now, sharing on the current employment insurance system of parental leave, when you share a year at home with your new baby, you're foregoing from your household income the equivalent of about $14,000, $15,000. That's the equivalent of another mortgage on top of already higher housing prices. And the difference between your experience and today is that people are making thousands less for full-time work as a young person today and face housing prices that are so much higher. That is a fundamentally different reality.
You're not motivating my daughters to give me grandkids. All right, I want to move on, though. One other thing that the ability to earn income when you are on mat leave and not having it clawed back, I guess this does allow that to happen. That sounds like a winner to me.
Yeah, although it's kind of contrary to the point of leave, which is trying to acknowledge that the birth of a new human being is a busy time at home, one where there's a physicality of birthing, there's the sleep deprivation for dads and moms through the breastfeeding, etc. And so the point is to give you a bit of time outside of the labor market to handle that. And a generation ago, it was much more common for households to have parents with that time for years, and now it's difficult for families more often to afford months. And we've estimated at Gen Squeeze that to do this right, it would cost around $10 billion extra. And that may sound like a large sum of money to your listeners, but we published a report yesterday showing that, the real elephant in the room right now is that federal governments are overlooking younger Canadians and spend far more on an aging population. Literally, an extra $10 billion in parental leave wouldn't even be 10% of what we do on retirement income security. That's the elephant-sized investment that the feds make. And we have much more mouse-like and cat-sized investments in families with kids. And the same could also be said about child care services, which is another part of the conversation that parties are competing over, but not necessarily allocating a ton of money to it, or a sufficient amount of money, I should say, to make it a reality.
Well, Paul, $10 billion is a lot of money, but we gave $4.3 billion to dairy farmers earlier this week, and not much change in their industry. All right, final question. The Conservatives aren't alone on this. There are other party plans going forward. How does this plan announced today by the Conservatives compare to the Liberal and NDP plans?
So the Liberal plan is also to extend leave to 18 months. They add an extra $130 million to make that so. There's still a big gap to the billions that I'm talking about would really make it meaningful. The NDP talk about extending leave by 5 weeks, but they are talking about making those 5 weeks of a bigger benefit than is currently talked about by the Conservatives and the Liberals, and so they allocate $500 million more. And while $10 billion may sound like a lot, let's be clear, all of those parties are committing to an extra $13 billion a year for old age security. They can find big sums of money. They're just not talking about really that reality, which is disproportionately going to my mom and my grandmother, who I adore, but they want to get it right for their kids and grandchildren.
All right, Paul, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.